Some breaking news coming in to us now. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the battle for Aleppo is over. They say that the regime supported by Russia has retaken the whole of the city. The offensive was launched last month. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights reported firstly that the Sheikh Zayed district had fallen to the army overnight. We've only heard so far from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. We haven't heard anything from the Syrian regime or the rebels yet. Let's go straight to Ediz Tiyansan in Gaziantep. Ediz, we're listening in.
Yes, we have just heard from the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The director himself made the comment saying that the battle for Aleppo has reached its end. Now, it is rather a vague comment at this point. We are still waiting for further details, and we're not sure if this actually means that the Aleppo has fallen. Now, that wouldn't come as a surprise, but as you said, we're still not sure because TRT World just had an interview in the past hour or so with one of the activists on the ground in eastern Aleppo, and their evacuation couldn't have been that quickly. We still know that those activists, some of the fighters, rebel fighters also, are still in that area. We don't know if the fighting, as in the firing, has stopped for now. We cannot tell whether this is the actual end of the fighting. What we do know is that the rebels, as you know, are stuck in this ever-shrinking enclave. Just on Sunday, they had lost a few neighborhoods. As of today, they had also lost the Sheikh Zayed district, which is one of the biggest districts in that area. And currently, they are holding on to only a few of these neighborhoods, and they're also stuck with thousands of civilians.
So was the Sheikh Zayed district, as you mentioned, was that the gateway to the city center? That's important, wasn't it, the district?
Exactly. They were expecting that once that major district falls, it would be even easier for the Syrian regime to advance further and capture more districts on the ground. And we were also hearing from the regime sources that they were, throughout the day today, still pressing ahead with their offensive. As you know, they are intensively pounding whatever remaining area is still under the rebel control in eastern Aleppo, both through ground shelling on the ground by regime forces as well as their allied militia, the Shia militia mostly. Also, they are backed by the Russian Air Force. There are constant airstrikes. Now, this latest comment is quite significant because today could mark the fall of Aleppo. If that actually what the Syrian Observatory means, and if that is the case, as you know, this will be a significant turning point in this 5-year ongoing civil war.
So we should also remember probably the ministerial meeting that took in France when US Secretary of State John Kerry actually said the control was now in the hands of Syrian regime and Russia, and said to show some grace to Syrian regime and Russia. So, but they said that it wouldn't be the end of fighting. What would it mean, do you think, if Aleppo falls?
Well, remember that taking control of Aleppo means taking control of vast swathes of area in the country. The Aleppo province itself has, and the Aleppo city itself once used to be the largest city, it was the commercial capital. Once you're in control there, you are also controlling 90% of the fertile areas in there that also sustain a lot of the cities, most of the population around, really. So once the regime establishes control there, it will be a major blow, really, against the rebel groups. They will be significantly weakened, but that certainly doesn't mean the end of the conflict. Remember that there are still safe havens that rebel groups are gathered, especially in the Idlib province in the north, and some of them in the south as well. So the conflict will go on, and even the fight for Aleppo might not completely come to an end. I think there will be still attacks in the nearby, from the nearby regions to retake Aleppo itself, as I said, because it is so significant.
So the director of the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights says the Battle of Aleppo has reached its end. It is just a matter of a small period of time, no more, no less. It's a total collapse. That was the latest from Rami Abdel Rahman, the director of the Britain-based Monitor, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. So, Ediz, what is the situation on the civilians, though?
Well, remember that the initial population, I mean, just at least until the offensive by the Syrian regime started earlier in November, the total population was 250,000, and they had already been under a tight siege by the regime for many months, since July, really. And since this offensive began, it just consistently got worse. We know that tens of thousands of civilians managed to escape. They fled the area, especially overnight, both on Saturday night and over the weekend. There were batches of civilians trying to flee the area, literally desperate to flee for their lives, because the enclave currently is so small, and because it is so intensively under bombardment, that there are still many civilian casualties, and they wanted to leave for the regime-controlled areas, mostly to the western part of the city. But we understand that the total of number of people who fled at this point is an estimated 130,000, which means that still around 100,000 civilians could be there, desperately waiting for a safe passage, for a humanitarian corridor. Because remember, for many of them, it is still extremely scary. It is a terrifying idea to try to flee a besieged area in the middle of all that fighting, trying to cross through some of the front lines to seek safety and shelter. So a lot of them, especially with younger children, elderly, they're simply stuck there, and they're waiting for the final diplomatic talks to reach a resolution, or for this fighting to finally come to an end.
Thanks for that, Ediz Tiyansan from the Turkey-Syria border in Gaziantep on the latest. So that's according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The battle for Aleppo is over. Rami Abdel, the director, said the battle of Aleppo has reached its end. It is just a matter of a small period of time, no more, no less. It's a total collapse. We'll go back to the breaking news once we have more information.